Get out. This isn't your house anymore. My father's voice thundered through the living room like a bullet. I stood there with my bag half-zipped, my eyes trembling, my hands frozen. I was barefoot on the hardwood floor I used to play on as a kid, and now I was being thrown out like a stranger. My mother didn't say a word. She looked away, her hands nervously clutching the edge of her silk shawl like she wanted to disappear into it. And then, without missing a beat, my sister Lauren leaned against the hallway wall with that same smirk she'd worn since childhood. "Finally, peace," she said, twirling her phone in her hand. "I thought you'd never leave." I should have snapped back. I should have screamed. I should have reminded them that I'd paid the property taxes last year when Dad couldn't. That I bought Mom her medication when she was too embarrassed to ask anyone else. That I helped Lauren pay off her credit card debt last summer when her boyfriend ghosted her. But I didn't. I just picked up my bag, blinked the tears back, and stepped toward the front door like a stranger, excusing herself from a place she was never welcome in the first place. Then the door swung open, hard, fast, with force. And there he stood, my husband. No emotion on his face, no greeting, no smile. He was in a sharp black coat, his jaw clenched, a quiet fire behind his calm. Beside him, our lawyer. I froze. So did everyone else. My dad's mouth slightly opened, like he was about to say something. Then he didn't. My sister stood upright, the phone slipping in her hand. My mother? She looked like she'd just seen a ghost rise from her own guilt. But I knew this moment was coming, because I hadn't just walked into this house today with a duffel bag. I'd walked in with truth. And what they didn't know was, this house wasn't theirs anymore. Not since last week. Let me rewind. Just a little, but not far. I'll keep it sharp. My name is Rachel Carson, 28 years old, married to a man most people don't even try to understand, Ethan Miller. Sharp mind, colder execution, a self-made real estate investor who never cared about being liked. We met 4 years ago when I was doing freelance staging jobs. I walked into a mansion thinking I was prepping it for a family, and ended up working for the guy who owned every house on that street. Ethan and I didn't have a fairy tale start, but what we had was real. He saw things in me no one else did. I didn't have a powerful last name or Ivy League background, but I had fire, grit, strategy, and he loved that about me. My parents, on the other hand, they hated him. They said he was cold, manipulative, controlling, that I'd gotten lucky and married up. But the truth? They hated him because they couldn't use him. They couldn't guilt-trip him, couldn't borrow from him, couldn't control me anymore through their usual emotional blackmail. So they iced me out slowly. Over the years, the visits became fewer. Phone calls turned into 3-word texts. I'd bring birthday gifts for my sister, and she'd say, "Didn't need anything, but whatever." And my father? He just stared past me like I was the stain he couldn't scrub out of his perfect family portrait. But the real earthquake came 2 months ago. My dad called me, voice trembling, pretending everything was fine. "Hey, Rachel. Listen, the house. We're kind of dealing with a few delays on the payments. And the mortgage, it's gotten a little complicated. Just temporary. You know how it is? That temporary complication? He hadn't paid the mortgage in 6 months. Not one. And the bank? Already scheduled for closure. My father begged, said he was this close to locking a new contract, that he'd pay me back. That I should do this for the family. My mom called the next day pretending like nothing happened, telling me how Lauren had been such a rock lately, planning a birthday party. My sister? She posted a story with a bottle of champagne and the caption, "Self-made." Unlike others, I didn't say anything to anyone, but I called Ethan, and within 2 days, the papers were signed. We bought the house. All legal. The deed? Transferred into my husband's company, and they never knew. Until today. Ethan walked in first. His voice was ice. Calm. Sharp. Hello, Mr. Carson, Mrs. Carson. Lauren. He looked at them one by one. I believe you've been living in our property without formal permission. My dad's face turned red, then white, then somewhere in between. He stepped forward. What the hell is this? Ethan, what are you talking about? Ethan turned to the lawyer, who calmly pulled out a crisp folder and handed it to my dad. These are the deed transfer documents, the lawyer said. The house was foreclosed. My client purchased it at auction on the 3rd. Everything's registered, notarized, and filed. My mother gasped. Lauren stared, lips parted like a mute puppet. I own this house, my dad growled. This is my house. Ethan turned to me, and then he did something I'll never forget. He reached his hand out for mine. I took it, and he walked me back inside, back into the house they threw me out of. He turned around and said, Actually, this house belongs to my wife. I looked at all of them. My father's jaw tightened, his fists curled. My mother tried to say something but only choked on air. Lauren stepped forward, shrieking, You planned this? You let us live here? Like some kind of experiment? I finally spoke. Number I just watched. Watched how you treated me. Watched how easily you threw me away. And then I looked at my father. You said this isn't my house anymore? I stepped forward. You're right. It's not. It's mine now. Silence. Suffocating silence. And then Ethan leaned into me, whispering in my ear, Are you ready? I nodded. Then let's begin. Because I wasn't just taking back a house. I was taking back every part of myself they tried to erase. Then let's begin. Ethan's words still echoed in the living room like a quiet explosion. The silence that followed was louder than any shouting match. My father looked down at the deed papers again, as if squinting harder would make them vanish. My mother, still frozen by the entryway, gripped the edge of the table like her legs might give out. And Lauren? She scoffed, threw her hair over her shoulder, and said, This is insane. This can't be legal. The lawyer cleared his throat calmly. It's not only legal, it's final. This home was sold through public auction. All prior ownership claims are void. My father suddenly snapped. I worked for this house. You think you can just come in here and kick me out? After all I've built? You didn't build anything, I said softly. You just inherited things and let them rot. He flinched, but I kept going. You let the roof leak for 2 years. You missed 6 months of payments. You lied to everyone about your money, your business, even about me. He gritted his teeth. Don't get righteous now, Rachel. You're still just a spoiled brat who married into power. I smiled, not the happy kind, the kind that comes from pain turned into steel. Maybe, but at least I didn't pretend to love my own child only to spit her out when she started thinking for herself. Lauren walked right up to me then, her voice full of venom. Let me guess. Now you're gonna make us beg to stay, right? You'll play the victim, then toss us out with some big dramatic speech. You love this kind of moment. I looked her dead in the eye. I actually plan to let you stay. Quietly. Respectfully. But the way you laughed when Dad threw me out? I paused. That changed everything. Her face twisted in disbelief. You're seriously going to evict your own family? Ethan stepped forward, speaking calmly. Legally, we're not evicting. We're serving notice to vacate due to unauthorized occupancy. You have 7 days to leave. 7 days? My mother whispered, clutching her pearls like she was in some soap opera. Where are we supposed to go? I turned to her, and for a second I hesitated. She was my mother, the one who used to braid my hair before school, who hugged me when I got my heart broken. But then I remembered the look on her face earlier, that cold, blank nothing as I stood crying by the door. So I said, "You could ask Lauren." She said she finally has peace. Lauren's jaw dropped. You can't be serious." "Dead serious," I replied, holding my chin high. "You made it clear you didn't want me around. So now I'm giving you what you asked for. Just with paperwork." My father suddenly slammed the folder shut and pointed at Ethan. "This is all you. You turned her against us. You poisoned her." Ethan didn't flinch. "I didn't poison her. I just reminded her she didn't need to keep drinking from the same well that kept making her sick." My dad lunged forward, and for a moment, I actually thought he was going to swing. But Ethan took one step in front of me and stared him down. "I wouldn't do that," he said coolly. "Assaulting me on my property would be unfortunate." My father stopped. His breathing was heavy, his pride bruised, his power gone. That's when the weight of the moment finally hit them. They weren't in charge anymore. They couldn't yell louder or guilt harder to get their way, because the house they were standing in, the one they mocked me from, no longer belonged to them. It belonged to me, and they knew it. Nobody said a word for a long time. The silence was sharp, uncomfortable. The kind of silence that follows a war, not an argument. Then my mother finally broke. She sat down slowly on the edge of the sofa and spoke without looking at me. "Rachel, honey, we were just emotional. That was your father's temper talking. He didn't mean it when he said this isn't your house." I blinked. "You watched him throw me out. You didn't say a word." She lifted her head, lips trembling. I was shocked. I didn't know what to do. "You looked away," I replied coldly. "That was your choice." Lauren huffed from the corner. "Oh my God, she's seriously gonna milk this forever." Ethan turned to her with a calm, amused look. "Are you really in a position to be sarcastic right now?" Lauren rolled her eyes but stayed quiet. For once. Then my dad walked over to the wall and started staring at an old family photo like it held some secret that could fix this. His tone was lower now. Slower. "You want to ruin us, Rachel? That's what this is? You're getting back at us like this? You think this makes you better?" I didn't respond right away. I just studied his expression. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't guilt. It was shame disguised as anger. So I stepped toward him and said, "No. This doesn't make me better. It makes me free." He turned sharply. "We gave you everything." "No, you gave me rules, guilt, pressure, expectations I never asked for. You made me earn your love, and when I stopped trying, you cut me off." He scoffed. "So now what? You kick us out and pretend that makes you powerful?" "I'm not pretending anything. I'm claiming what you tried to bury. You called me weak. Now look who's begging to stay." That hit him. I saw the flinch in his eyes before he looked away. Lauren jumped in, desperate. "You can't kick out Mom. She didn't do anything." I looked straight at my mother. "Exactly. She didn't do anything." My mother gasped. "I was trying to keep the peace." "No," I said gently but firmly. "You were trying to stay comfortable. Peace doesn't come from silence. It comes from truth. And you let them humiliate me because speaking up would have cost you your seat at the table." I could see her eyes welling up, but I didn't stop. "Now the table's mine, and you don't get to sit at it unless you come clean." Ethan leaned in and whispered, "You okay?" I nodded. "More than okay." The lawyer stepped forward. "You have 6 days remaining. On the 7th, locks will be changed. Utilities rerouted. We recommend you use this time to relocate." My father muttered something under his breath and stormed off to his room. My mother just stared at the floor. Lauren was trembling, silent for once. Ethan looked at me. "You sure about this?" I took a deep breath. I was sure the moment I stood by that door with my bag and they all let me cry. Then I turned and headed upstairs, back to the room they turned into a storage closet years ago, because it was finally mine again. And the girl they once cast out? She just walked back into power. That night, the air in the house was strange, still, heavy. You could feel the tension in the walls. Every door creaked louder than it should have. Every step echoed like guilt walking down the hallway. I stayed in my old room. It didn't look the same anymore. My posters were gone. The bookshelf was covered in dust. The closet, empty. Like I never existed here. But I didn't cry. Instead, I stood by the window, watching the lights from the neighbors' houses, wondering how many families were like mine, broken, but pretending to be perfect, smiling in front of others while tearing each other apart behind closed doors. Ethan came in quietly and sat down on the edge of the bed. "You're handling this better than I thought." I smiled faintly. "You mean I haven't screamed or broken a glass yet?" He shrugged. "I'd say you're entitled to it." I sat beside him. "I think the worst part is, I'm not even angry anymore. I just feel hollow." He nodded. "That's what truth does sometimes. It clears out everything fake, even if it leaves you with silence." We stayed there for a while. No words, just breathing. Until, bang. Something slammed downstairs. Ethan was up in a flash. I followed close behind, heart thudding. We walked into the kitchen. My father was standing there, half drunk it seemed. A glass bottle shattered near the sink. "I built this house," he roared, pointing wildly. "I paid for every tile, every brick, every damn corner. You think a piece of paper makes you its owner? It's mine." I didn't flinch. I just stared at him. "No," I said calmly. "It was yours. Until you gambled it away. Until you let your pride be more important than your family." "You ungrateful," he started, stepping forward. But Ethan stepped in front of me like a shadow. My father froze. "You take one more step toward her," Ethan said low, "and I'll make sure your 6 days turn into 6 minutes." My dad glared at him, breathing hard. "You think you can scare me?" "No," Ethan replied. "I think the truth already did that." That stopped him. He backed away slowly, glaring at both of us. Then he muttered, "Fine. Keep the house. But don't come crying back when he leaves you too." I didn't even blink. "Funny," I said. "You're the one leaving this time, and no one's stopping you." He stormed out. The door slammed so hard the windows shook. I turned to Ethan, exhaling. "You okay?" he asked again. I nodded. Because I was. I was finally more than okay. I wasn't just reclaiming walls and floors. I was reclaiming every part of myself they'd tried to break. The next morning, I made coffee in that kitchen. My kitchen. And when Lauren passed by with her luggage and refused to look me in the eye, I smiled. Day 2 had just begun. By the 5th day, the house felt quieter. No shouting, no slamming doors, no footsteps filled with judgment. Just quiet. My mother had packed most of her things. She still hadn't looked me in the eye since that night. Lauren barely spoke a word. And my father? He didn't come back after that outburst in the kitchen. It was strange, watching them move out like guests being politely shown the exit. Even stranger, watching myself not break, not flinch, not fall apart. Because I wasn't doing this for revenge anymore. I was doing it to heal. On the 6th day, as the movers loaded the last few boxes into the van, my mom finally stood in front of me at the front door. She looked older than I remembered. Not in her face, but in her eyes. "You really went through with it," she whispered. "I did." She nodded slowly, almost sadly. "You were always stronger than we gave you credit for." I stayed quiet. Then she said something I didn't expect. "Your father. He always feared your strength." That's why he tried to bury it. I raised an eyebrow. And you? She looked down. I feared being left behind. So I went along with him. That hurt more than I expected. You already left me behind, Mom, I said softly. The moment you looked away while I was crying. She closed her eyes like she'd been slapped, but I didn't say it to hurt her. Just the truth. She nodded, then walked past me, down the porch steps, toward the car. She didn't look back. Lauren didn't say anything at all. She passed me without a word, her sunglasses hiding whatever shame or anger was buried underneath. By sunset, the house was finally mine, quiet, empty, and peaceful. Ethan walked in with 2 cups of coffee. He handed me one and said, "You did it." I stared at the living room. No, we did it. We sat down together. No words, no plans, just stillness. Until the lawyer called. He was confirming the title transfer. Officially recorded. The house was now under my name, not Ethan's. Mine. He surprised me with that. Said it was always meant to be mine. Said this was never about power. It was about giving me back my voice. I nearly cried. Instead, I whispered, "Thank you," and held his hand. Weeks passed. The walls got painted. The energy changed. I donated all the furniture my father insisted was too expensive for me to touch. I turned Lauren's old room into a studio. I opened the blinds they always kept shut. I made the house breathe again. And one morning, I got a letter. From my father. 3 sentences. "You were right, I was wrong. I hope you don't hate me forever." I didn't write back. Not yet. Because forgiveness isn't a door you swing open just because someone knocks once. It's earned. Like trust. Like healing. But I'm getting there. Every step I take across this floor, I remember the girl who once stood here with her bags, heart shattered, tears on her cheeks. And now? Now she walks like she owns the place. Because she does. The house. Her voice. Her peace. Her power. All of it. And no one, not even family, gets to take that away again.